U.S. law. We will not lift sanctions on the Cuban regime until all political prisoners are freed, freedoms of assembly and expression are respected, all political parties are legalized, and free and internationally supervised elections are scheduled. Elections. We will very strongly restrict American dollars flowing to the military, security, and intelligence services that are the core of the Castro regime. They will be restricted. We will enforce the ban on tourism. We will enforce the embargo. We will take concrete steps to ensure that investments flow directly to the people so they can open private businesses and begin to build their country's great, great future, a country of great potential. My action today bypasses the military and the government to help the Cuban people themselves form businesses and pursue much better lives. We will keep in place the safeguards to prevent Cubans from risking their lives to unlawful travel to the United States. They are in such danger the way they have to come to this country, and we are going to be safeguarding those people. We have to. We have no choice. We have to. And we will work for the day when a new generation of leaders brings this long reign of suffering to an end. And I do believe that end is in the very near future. We challenge Cuba to come to the table with a new agreement that is in the best interests of both their people and our people, and also of Cuban Americans. To the Cuban government, I say, put an end to the abuse of dissidents. Release the political prisoners. Stop jailing innocent people. Open yourselves to political and economic freedoms. Return the fugitives from American justice, including the return of the cop killer, Joanne Chesimard. And finally, hand over the Cuban military criminals who shot down and killed 4 brave members of Brothers to the Rescue who were in unarmed, small, slow civilian planes. Those victims included Mario de la Pena Jr. and Carlos Costa. We are honored to be joined today by Mario's parents, Miriam and Mario, and Carlos's sister, Mirta. Where are you? Those are great parents who love their children so much. What they've done is just an incredible thing. What they represent, they did not die in vain. what they represent to everybody, and especially to the Cuban people. So your children did not die in vain, believe me. So to the Castro regime, I repeat, the harboring of criminals and fugitives will end. You have no choice. It will end. Any changes to the relationship between the United States and Cuba will depend on real progress toward these and the other goals, many of which I've described. When Cuba is ready to take concrete steps to these ends, we will be ready, willing, and able to come to the table to negotiate that much better deal for Cubans, for Americans, much better deal. And a deal that's fair. A deal that's fair. And a deal that makes sense. Our embassy remains open in the hope that our countries can forge a much stronger and better path. America believes that free, independent, and sovereign nations are the best vehicle for human happiness, for health, for education, for safety, for everything. We all accept that all nations have the right to chart their own paths, and I'm certainly a very big believer in that. So we will respect Cuban sovereignty, but we will never turn our backs on the Cuban people. That will not happen. Over the years, a special sympathy has grown between this land of the free and the beautiful people of that island so close to our shores and so deeply woven into the history of our region. America has rejected the Cuban people's oppressors. They are rejected. Officially today, they are rejected. And to those people, America has become a source of strength and our flag a symbol of hope. I know that is exactly what America is to you and what it represents to you. It represents the same to me. It represents the same to all of us. And that is what it was to a little boy, Luis Aza. You ever hear of Luis? Became very famous, great talent. Just 8 years old when Fidel Castro seized power. At the time, Luis's father was the police chief in Santiago de Cuba. You know Santiago? Yeah? Oh, they know Santiago. Just days after Fidel took control, his father was one of 71 Cubans executed by firing squad near San Juan Hill at the hands of the Castro regime. Luis buried his grief in his great love of music. He began playing the violin so brilliantly and so beautifully. Soon the regime saw his incredible gift and wanted to use him for propaganda purposes. When he was 12, they organized a national television special and demanded he play a solo for Raul Castro, who, by the way, is leaving now. I wonder why. They sent an official to fetch Luis from his home, but Luis refused to go. And a few days later, Castro's soldiers barged into his orchestra practice area, guns blazing. They told him to play for them. Terrified, Luis began to play, and the entire room was stunned by what they heard. Ringing out from the trembling boy's violin was a tune they all recognized. This young Cuban boy was playing the Star Star-Spangled Banner. Luis played the American national anthem all the way through, and when he finished, the room was dead silent. When we say that America stands as a symbol to the world, a symbol of freedom and a symbol of hope, that is what Luis meant, and that is what Luis displayed that day. It was a big day. It was a great day. And that is what we will all remain. That was a very important moment, just like this is now for Cuba, a very important moment. America will always stand for liberty, and America will always pray and cheer for the freedom of the Cuban people. Now, that little boy whose story I just told you, the one who played that violin so beautifully so many years ago, is here with us today in our very, very packed and extremely warm auditorium. Of course, he is no longer a little boy, but a world-renowned violinist and conductor, one of the greats. And today he will once again play his violin and fill the hearts of all who love and cherish Cuba, the United States, and freedom. I would like now to invite Luis to the stage. Luis.
So that was an end to President Donald Trump's announcement of the new Cuba policy, and using very theatrically the story of a young man named Luis who was forced to play for President Castro many years ago in Cuba, forced because he didn't want to, and in their room, instead of playing something more, I suppose, appropriate for what the Cuban president would have wanted, he played the Star-Spangled Banner. And of course, President Trump there using as much theatre as possible, finding that man who's now become a world-renowned violinist to play the same tune, the Star-Spangled Banner, the American anthem, before his applying his policies. And of course, he's rolled back everything that President Obama had put into play. We're back to square one, as it were, in terms of relations between Cuba and the US. No lifting of the embargo, no lifting of sanctions. He says that he will continue to restrict tourism and movement between the two countries. He says that he will carry on with this until all political prisoners are freed in Cuba, that there's freedom of expression allowed, the political parties are allowed, and there should be supervised elections. He says that he wants to help the Cubans pursue a better life, and that the Cubans are free to come back and negotiate with the Americans a new deal, but it must be on the basis of a freer Cuba. So we wait and see what the Cuban reaction will be, but certainly those relationships between Cuba and Russia that we saw, Obama had sort of set up landmark new relationship with the two countries, seem to be rolling back a tad. The embassy will remain in Cuba, but that's about all. That's Donald Trump in the US. Let's come back home, and these are tonight's top stories today.